this fascination with death and salvation, which developed into a mystical cult of blood and warfare. The only way to satisfy the gods was to wage war to provide victims for the sacrificial stone. The demands of the war gods forged the shape of Aztec society.
There were several avenues of advancement for noble and commoner alike, and one of the principal ones was through military service. Every child, commoner or noble, every male was taught to be a warrior. As soon as they could walk, they were trained in military combat. Those who proved valiant on the battlefield, who had taken a prisoner, for example, advanced through the ranks. And this was one of the very few ways that commoners could become extremely wealthy.
Our warriors, flowers of our youth, were the ones we loved most. Our most valiant nobles turned into jaguars on the battlefield. Our eagle warriors flew and destroyed, taking prisoners from our enemies so that we might feed them to the gods.
One of the most spectacular forms of sacrifice practiced in the Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan, was called the gladiatorial sacrifice. A warrior prisoner who had been captured in battle was pitted against 5 Aztec warriors. The fight lasted for several hours. The warrior prisoner, armed only with blunt weapons, tried to defend himself against the Aztec warriors, who were armed with razor-sharp swords with obsidian blades. Finally, when the victim was covered with wounds, his blood literally fed the solar disk where he stood. It ran down and collected in the center of the stone. Then they summoned the priest from the great temple. He sent 4 attendants to carry the warrior up to the temple, and there they cut out his heart and threw the body down the steps. Then they quickly skinned the victim's corpse, both his face and his body, and one of the priests, or the person who had offered the victim, pulled the bloody skin over his own body, wearing it like clothes. The symbolism is quite clear. In the winter, the dry season, the land is parched and dry, just like the victim's flayed skin. When 20 days later the priest pulls off this wrinkled old skin, his fresh new skin appears underneath. Symbolically, this means that by the action of the sun and the gods, the earth is warmed, it becomes young again, and once again bursts into flower.
Aztec sacrificial rituals mimicked the processes of fertility they were designed to ensure, but they also had a political purpose.
Aztec sacrificial practices were very highly politicized. It involved capturing enemy warriors and sacrificing them as a way of legitimizing, through the blood of victims, the power of the state. So the whole enormous scale of state theater is something unmatched in the ancient world, where you have thousands of victims being paraded in ceremonial attire, going up these enormous and beautiful white pyramids, and then their red blood flowing down specially designed channels. You can just imagine the psychological impact this had on subject peoples.
At the height of the empire, the Aztecs sacrificed more than 30,000 people every year.
The Aztecs managed to create the largest empire in North America in 200 years. They had managed to control all of civilized Mesoamerica from coast to coast, so that Aztec tax collectors walked the shores of both oceans.